Organizational behavior is the study of human. It is the study of people, that how people behave and why in a particular situation. So people's behavior in many a times are based on expectations. On the other hand, if we consider certain organization, they expect certain behavior and they reject other behaviors. So in many a times it is the concern of a manager that how we can change employee behavior. So changing employee behavior is highly considered under behavior modification. So now we are going to see about the concept of behavior modification. In today's globalized world, companies have been forced to change their corporate cultures and their standards of operation. The change has been forced on them by globalization of markets and competition, growth of immediate digital information and communication. In many a times, organizational structures have trended them from tall, hierarchical bureaucracies to flat, decentralized operations that encourage innovations. Such change doesn't happen automatically, and here organizational behavior modification, simply called OB mod, plays a key role. This behavior modification, simply OB mod, is the application of reinforcement concept of individuals in the work setting or organizational setting. It is the systematic application of learning principles and techniques to assess and improve individuals' covert and behaviors in order to help them function more fully in society. In the words of Stephen Robbins, OB Mod is a program where managers identify performance related employee behavior and then implement an intervention strategy to strengthen desirable behavior and weaken undesirable behavior. If we see another definition here, Hunt Osborne said that OB mod is the systematic reinforcement of desirable work behavior and non-reinforcement or punishment of unwanted work behavior. This behavior modification uses a scheduled approach that rewards desired behavior and punishes undesirable behavior. This technique continues to be used in therapy and is used in many psychological settings. So now we are going to see many different examples and going to analyze those examples to understand this behavior modification concept more clearly. So at first, an individual who wants to quit smoking cigarettes may use this behavior modification technique. In the same time, a parent who wants her child to consistently make the bed may use this technique, and it is very much helpful to achieve these goals. Behavior modification can also be implemented on a systematic scale to increase productivity within organizations and businesses. Another example, behaviorists believe that if a person sees a lion and runs away, he is not running because he is scared. Instead, he is running because those that did not run in the past died, and therefore the urge to run is a result of the survival of those that ran and lived to pass on their genes. In addition, the subjective feeling of being scared is considered a flight reflex, not an emotion. The heart races and adrenaline increases as the central nervous system reacts to the environment of the body. So therefore we can decide that anything a person does, from snoring to talking, can be targeted for behavior modification. Behavior modification based on example, we are now going to discuss about reinforcement and punishment concept. So reinforcement and punishment, anything that increases a behavior is considered reinforcement, and anything that decreases the behavior is considered as punishment. So if we consider this as reinforcement and punishment, we can see some other parts. So at first, the tricky part is that both reinforcement and punishment at the same time can be positive and at the same time can be negative. Positive refers to something added to the environment, and negative is something taken away. An example of positive reinforcement might be giving a child a hug when she does a good job. An example of negative reinforcement might be turning off an annoying sound when the child does a good job. Here, when the person gives hug, then it is added to the environment, and in the same time, when turning off and sound when child does a uh, good job, this is the negative reinforcement. In the same way, another example of positive reinforcement is making a child do extra chores and works related to the home after she does something bad. And in the same time, an example of negative punishment is taking away the child's favorite toy when she is bad. That is, when we add something, it is positive, and when we take away something, it is negative. Another example, if your teacher gives you €5 or dollar each time you complete your homework, you will be more likely to repeat this behavior in the future, thus strengthening the behavior of completing your homework. In the same sense, if you do not complete your homework, you give your teacher $5. You will complete your homework to avoid paying $5, thus strengthening the behavior of completing your homework. Another example, if a therapist's goal is to teach an autistic child how to say mom, he might start on day one with the goal of the child saying Next, every time the child makes the sound as a cue, she gets reinforced with something she likes, like opportunity to play for 30 seconds or a small piece of candy. So whenever this child makes the sound this child gets something that the child values. Then, once the goal has been consistently achieved, the therapist no longer reinforces just only for Now, this therapist reinforces only the child makes the sound ma, ma. In this situation like this, if the child reverts back to a previous step such as saying after she has already said ma several times, punishment consists of a lack of reinforcement coupled with the therapist looking away and ignoring the child for 10 seconds. That makes the child feeling that the child is losing something, and if the child makes the sound that ma, the child is going to get the benefit again. This behavior modification concept, if used in our everyday life, it is an example also, and this example is based on a wife. If you want your husband to open the car door for you, then first arrange a situation when he has to open the door, and the technique may be like holding a huge bag of groceries in your own hand. Once he opens the door for the first time, look at him in the eye and tell him what an amazing person he is. Don't explicitly connect this comment to the door opening, but do make sure that the comment directly follows the desired behavior. It might take some time, but eventually he will open the car door on a fairly consistent basis. Once that happens, do not compliment every time your husband opens the door. Instead, change from a modification stage to a maintenance stage and compliment and average every third to seventh time he opens the door. That is, if your husband opens the door for 3 times, then give thanks. And then after passing some times, if your husband opens the door for you for 7 times, then give thanks. In this way, you can modify the desired behavior in your everyday life.